This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I'm just being me in a world that isn't. This is the Arbor Cypress. This is the Mark Carter edition in a size medium, the one I rode. Next to it is the regular old Cypress in a size small, which I didn't ride. And next to it is a Hemlock in a size small, which I didn't ride either, because it was just too small for my size 9 boots this year for 2022. Got it in a wide variety of conditions, mainly with my Burton Kendo boots. Everything from hard snow to a little bit of powder to some pretty good groomers, you know, a bunch of variable uneven snow as well. So to give you a short summary, the Arbor Cypress, Mark Carter edition and regular one is the same. It hasn't changed much over the years, except for maybe improved ratchets. And it's still a really good binding in terms of flex underfoot, in terms of response, shock absorption, pretty good adjustability, and it's a good all-around recommendable binding that works with a wide variety of board types, and it's a pretty responsive but smooth binding. So let's get into weight. This is 2.2 pounds with the screws and the disc in. Same as my Union Atlas. It's a touch on the heavier side, but it's still not too heavy, not too light. You feel the dampness, but you don't feel like the board is any heavier than it should be. Now let's talk Highback Flex. We got a good twist here. Not amazing twist, but there is some good give this way and that way, but there's no real give back. And you've got a pretty tall high back. If you compare that, this is a small, but you know, the medium will be similar to the Hemlock. You can see there is just tons of give. This is just a tale of two different bindings, all mountain, park, freestyle. Mountain freestyle too, or for somebody who likes a mellow binding. Still, I found though, with a little bit of high back rotation and this good twist, it didn't bite too much into my calves, even though it's a touch taller than some high backs I ride. Now, when it comes to flex underfoot and buttering, this Cypress has a really cool tech going on. They have kind of this X tech here, and there is kind of like, I don't know if you can see, but a kind of dense rubber throughout this X here, and it's pretty thick. And what it does is two things. It really dampens up the ride. It's like almost there with like now bindings, which I feel are like the pinnacle of shock absorption and dampness. But it gives you pretty good butterability because it's not really true full-on contact like you would have with, you know, the fiberglass plastic combo of the base plate here if it were touching. Then you've got this area hollowed out, just EVA foam here. And then you have a mini disc. And this just makes for minimal contact with the board. The board flexes underfoot really well from tip to tail, just easy. It flexes easier there, but also torsionally on your twist, it has a good flex there. So it allows the board to flex more naturally underfoot, makes it easier to butter, and still retains a lot of dampness and that kind of cool thing too. So very cool flex underfoot, and it's a very buttery binding for how responsive it is. Speaking of response, when it comes to turn initiation and response, the Arbor Cypress is really good. It's more on the smooth side, but it's still kind of medium fast, and I like that because it matches up with a wide variety of boards. It matched up really well with the Arbor Clovis, which is kind of a quick turning board for me in the size that I was riding it, I think a 157. But then I got it on the Jones Mountain Twin, which likes a more responsive binding, and it did a pretty good job there too. So it works with a wide variety of board types and has decent response. without feeling too sharp or overpowering a board and making it feel twitchy and too responsive. Now, when it comes to shock absorption and dampness, I touched on this a little bit in Flex Underfoot and Butterability, but this rubber pad throughout this entire X, this like tan colored rubber pad here, and you can see it in black here too, is super damp. It just really dampens the ride at high speeds, so it allows you to keep your edge set in uneven terrain at higher speeds than you would normally be able to do. So they've got a lot of EVA foam going on in the gas pedal as well, and it's just nice continuous EVA foam throughout, which makes it feel really shock absorbent at slow speeds, but also high speeds. It's a nice balance. It's maybe just a shade behind Now and Jones bindings, but overall, it's a very damp, very good binding, especially if you're somebody who, you know, has joint issues or just wants a really shock absorbent ride. This is a very recommendable binding, and it also has a canted setup here in the base plate, and I love that because it just helps me align my joints a little bit better with that wider stance that we have with snowboarding. Even if you have a narrow stance, it's still kind of a little off and putting pressure on your joints. So I just like how this, just for me, alleviates like my bad hips, and it helps with some people's knees. Some people don't like it, but overall it's pretty good. Now let's talk boot support and straps. First off, I love this asymmetrical strap. You can see that, let's see here. Yeah, you can switch it so, you know, you can get more response or more of a freestyle, kind of mountain freestyle feel, with less response but more freedom of movement. So you can switch these straps around, and that's a pretty cool thing. I like that idea, I like that concept, and I love asymmetrical straps. I prefer to ride it in a more responsive setup where you've got more response up top here, but you know, you can switch it up if you're going with a more mountain freestyle oriented board. You got a 2-board quiver, you can switch the straps. And then when you get on a more free ride, directional, powder friendly, hard carving oriented board, you can go with more support. Never felt uncomfortable in uneven terrain, and I just felt like there's just sufficient ankle support and good freedom of movement, just a nice balance between the two. This toe strap's pretty good. I like the rubber on the bottom here. I like how this stretches over the toe, but this right here doesn't allow it to stretch too much. So pretty cool overall. Really allows me to crank down on the toe and get good support in the ankle strap, but not crank too hard so I don't have pressure points and pain. Ratchets are pretty good. When I first tried these bindings several years ago, oh God, it must have been like 2016, 17, somewhere around there. When I first rode these, the ratchets were really kind of glitchy and sticky. The binding was so good though. It was worth it though for a lot of people to deal with the ratchets because you had such a good shock absorbent, responsive, cool flex underfoot kind of binding. But now it looks like the straps are a little better. These are right out of the box, brand new, and they only have like 5 or 6 days on it, but the ratchets are doing pretty good, and they seem like they're a lot more reliable. I don't know for sure because I'm only riding these 5 days, but they seem like they're a lot more reliable, and they seem like they can last a full season no problem now. I'm talking like 100 days a year kind of season, and I think they're doing a much better job there. So let's talk boot to binding adjustability here. And first off, you have an adjustable heel loop, so you can slide this in and out a little bit to match your boot size. And I personally like this more than any other adjustability because it really helps. Now, I wish it had an adjustable gas pedal, but it doesn't. It doesn't seem to be. There's a little screw here, but I think that's more to just replace this whole gas pedal and footbed, and I couldn't get it personally to slide. But With most boot sizes, you'll be able to slide this heel loop in or out to match your boot's size and footprint, so it's centered on the binding, and that's really cool. You have toolless adjustability in the toe straps and the ankle straps. You've got high back rotation here on both sides here, so you can kind of dial that out properly, and that's pretty cool because turning your high backs to match your heel edge does two things. It alleviates calf bite, but it also lines up your high back with that heel side edge and makes turning more symmetrical, especially when you think about it and you have these directional stances. If you can turn this in this way so it matches the side cut, you've got a pretty good thing going edge to edge. You also have forward lean, but it needs a screwdriver. Kind of weird with the toolless on this side. I wish they did toolless here too. But that's pretty much it in terms of boot to binding adjustability. But when it comes to stance width adjustability, because you know most boots will be able to be centered in binding, and therefore when you mount it centered on board, you can turn these discs instead of running them heel to toe this way, sliding them this way, you can turn them this way and slide them tip to tail and get perfect stance width adjustability. And you can see here, the disc is the same size as a Union mini disc. It's on the smaller side of things. It's Burton channel system compatible as well, but even with this little bit of slide, you'll pretty much get any stance width you want. And one cool thing is pairing it up with Arbor boards. They have 7x2 inserts per binding, where most have 6 or 5. So you're going to get pretty good stance width adjustability. You can set it back a little further with mini discs than you can full-size discs with a lot of bindings, because you can set up on the last 2 inserts and slide it back. Overall, pretty good stance width adjustability as well. One thing about sizing this year is it seems like they've changed it up. Before, a medium just barely fit me. I felt like I was small on it with a size 9 boot because they were set up for size 9 to 11 and my boots were reduced in footprint. So this year I asked for smalls, but this year it looks like they changed up the sizing because my size 9 reduced footprint Burton Kendos were way too big for these smalls, and this year they fit the medium much better. I was really impressed at how well they fit size medium bindings. So I think this year I would say it's more 8 to 10 for medium and 8 and below for smalls, like 6 to 8 probably, because these I just was way too big. No matter how far I pulled the heel loop out, it just didn't work. Interesting tidbit about sizing. So overall, this binding hasn't changed much over the years, except for maybe the ratchets. They're better now. But I don't know if that's a bad thing, because it really has an amazing flex underfoot. It's very damp, very shock absorbent at slow speeds and high speeds. It's got this just nice, smooth response that matches up with a wide variety of all mountain and free ride, alternative free ride, kind of snow surfy boards, and it's just a very recommendable binding. Our crew all thinks it's a favorite, and you can have a pretty good time with a quiver of boards. Also with the flipping the strap for different response levels and freedom of movement with your binding, with your boot. It just does a really good job, and it's still a good ride favorite. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.